Alright, before I forget, I want to talk about this colony. This is a project that I'm working on, and before I forget, I wanted to talk about this colony during the early years of Panja. The early years of Panja, this was during the Big Empire days, and these areas were all being colonized by discriminators. But this colony in particular, this whole region is filled with very fertile lands. What is it? Very fertile lands. I'm just gonna get that out. Very fertile lands. This colony got stupidly rich off of just growing. This is basically like Roman Egypt breadbasket. It wasn't bread, it was something similar to bread, because this planet doesn't have wheat. But there was also not just very fertile lands because of this area being a bunch of rivers and lakes that flooded, and just like the Nile River and Tigris and Yangtze and Yellow Euphrates. I got a few of those rivers mixed up. But anyway, this region expanded into this area up in here, the land through here, and like, just to visualize that, they went up along the coast because it was just easier to do that. For one, easier to live on the water, just in case if there was some sort of, if they tried to explore into this area, they have a quick access route to escape from if something went awry. But they went into these areas exploring because they had never been in here. And what they found was just a bunch of fire crystals. Fire crystals in this world are very expensive and very good. It's like gold or salt was in this on Earth. So it was, I keep repeating myself, good, extremely rich, and just kind of like colonial America, these were technically two different colonies. New Jatsvana and Zikana. New Jatsvana controlled this part of the river, and Jatsvana controlled this part of the river. Well, more like an inland sea, but yeah. Now, they had a huge dispute on who controlled these islands out here, and this island, and this land up here that had not been explored yet. So, it was split down the middle. Right here. And these guys wanted it to continue straight until it got to this island and then swoop around, so that they got to claim these two islands. These guys wanted this. They wanted to control the entire area. They wanted to control all of it. These guys said, no, 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 you do not get to do that. And they made the capital get involved with this, and the emperor. They got involved quickly over these colonies down here. The richest out of all of their colonies. Like, put all of the colonies down here combined. Nope, no. No. Shush. Get all of their colonies combined and they still wouldn't be as rich as these 2 colonies. Now, the capital ruled that the thing would be like this. It would go down the direct middle and swoop down like this. But these two would have joint progress with these 2 islands, with more emphasis on this colony. This colony grew a lot faster, mostly because it wasn't surrounded by mountains. This area was just a bunch of hills. A bunch of hills and crap. Like that. So these guys just kinda grew like this. As these guys got more influential, these guys felt left out, and they wanted more profit. So what they tried to do was import slaves, elven slaves, and velven slaves, werewolves, and elves, and human slaves, to gain more profit, and they did so. They did start to get more profit in their farming. But, remember, this whole area is just a bunch of hills, and huge hills. What I mean by hills is something more along the lines of the Rocky Mountains. Like the Rocky Mountains. Now, for scale, this mountain right here where you see this yellow thing, this is the capital city, which is halfway up the mountain. This mountain is about 3 times as tall as Mount Everest. There is a huge river that goes all the way down from this and with all these mountains and combines into the Great River Gunther. So these mountains are all taller, and these mountains down here and these mountains, they are all taller than the Himalayas. These guys imported slaves from different areas. Also, the purple is humans. The Red Empire kind of absorbed all of the other kingdoms, like the dragons, elves, werewolves, giants, all of them. Absorbed all of them. Slaves were being imported. This video is already 8 minutes long. You're getting bored, so I'm going to start finishing up. They imported slaves, and these guys trucked through the mountains, and with some really harsh labor, they got through it and started whittling down the hills with chisels. Now, in my world, these guys are basically superhuman, so it's not as unfeasible as you would think it would be. Now they had more influence because their population was booming in the colony parliament. There were 3 different parliaments, or congresses, councils. The Empire Council, which controlled all of it, the entire empire, and the Colonial Council and the Foreign Affairs Council. The Colonial Council is divided up into 5 members per colony, and those are further divided up into 2, very similar to the United States, actually, where it's like a Senate and representatives. The Senate is based off of 5 members, and the representatives are based off of population. These had up to about 1 million or so people, and this one was about 900,000. So these guys were getting more representatives in the parliament, and that was making them more powerful. And they were able to fund more explorations into this area. And they even went across the river and slightly breaking the treaty that the governor himself signed, which totally wouldn't cause, I don't know, tension. Yeah, totally. No tension at all. Let me just... So, this area is actually very interesting in the early years of Panjin history. But that's about it. Also, the project I'm working on is a full history of Panja. It's going okay. I've got all the way from the beginning, all the way to now. This basically is the entire first book of the Scriptures of Citron. If you remember that thing that barely anybody watched. Anyway, that's a wrap, a snap, a tap, and a lap, lap, lap.